Don't talk to him. The warning pulsed in Amara's mind, long before Ryan said a word. She felt him watching her from across the hall, felt the heat of his stare like a spotlight, like a claim she hadn't agreed to but couldn't shake off. Every time she turned, she caught a flicker of him in her periphery. Broad shoulders, cold eyes, tension wound tight beneath a perfectly tailored suit. And still, she ignored it. Ignored the way his expression hardened each time another man drifted too close. Ignored the way he seemed to track every movement she made, as if the glittering room revolved solely around her. The Harmony Seoul Benefit Gala was in full bloom. Seoul's most powerful families floated through the grand ballroom in a dazzling parade of silk, diamonds, and inherited arrogance. Light from enormous chandeliers spilled across marble floors like liquid gold, catching on sequins and champagne flutes. Conversations danced between Korean, English, and French. Laughter chimed like crystal being tapped. Amara had been in Korea for 10 months now, long enough to move through this world with poised detachment, long enough to understand that her presence wasn't subtle. Her deep brown skin and sculpted curls made her both admired and underestimated, a duality she'd learned to turn into fuel. Her gown tonight was a deep emerald satin that hugged her waist before cascading to the floor, the color striking against her complexion. Her lipstick, a bold plum, matched the quiet confidence in her eyes. She looked like she belonged here, even if she wasn't born into their universe of legacy wealth and manufactured perfection. People gravitated toward her naturally, and she smiled, charming when she needed to be, diplomatic when it mattered. She was used to forming alliances through conversation, used to observing without being shaken. But nothing about Ryan allowed her to stay unshaken. Not tonight. Not ever. She sensed him before she saw him, felt the air shift, felt the crowd subtly parting as he moved. When she finally turned fully, her breath stuttered. There he was. Ryan Jae-hwan, CEO of the Black Phoenix Syndicate. A man whose name most people didn't speak above a whisper. Tall, severe, magnetic. Tattoos hidden beneath a custom black suit, but hinted at in the sharpness of his posture. The danger in his eyes. His presence alone seemed to drain the noise from the room. And in that moment, before he even approached, Amara knew. The night was about to change, irreversibly, violently, beautifully. Because Ryan wasn't just watching her, he was coming for her. The chandeliers in the Hanoil City Winter Benefit Gala hung like frozen constellations, crystal stars suspended above a room full of money, power, ambition, and secrets. On the marble floor below, gowns whispered against tailored suits, champagne glasses chimed like soft warnings, and a string quartet played as if its life depended on elegance. Amara Johnson had been in Korea for only 6 months, yet she moved through this world as if she'd been born to decode its language. Confidence sharpened her stride. Intelligence softened her smile. And tonight, wrapped in a gold satin gown that caught the light every time she breathed, she looked like the kind of woman even a city tried to orbit around. She stood near the sponsor's banner, speaking with Seo Juhon, the heir to one of Hanoil City's newest tech fortunes. Young, brilliant, glossy in that harmless way rich boys tended to be. Juwon kept trying to make her laugh, adjusting his cufflinks whenever she glanced at him, as if he needed every microsecond of her attention to feel relevant. She didn't notice the shift in the room. Not yet. She didn't see the ripple of unease that moved through the crowd like a silent tide. Not yet. But every guest noticed him. Kang Ryu entered the gala like a storm, disguised in a charcoal silk suit. He walked with the calm precision of a man whose threats were never empty, and whose name alone made politicians check their tone. Tall, lean, and dangerously composed, he carried an aura that didn't just turn heads. It made people step aside before their minds even registered why. His tattoos, sleek lines of ink brushing up the side of his neck before disappearing beneath his collar, were subtle reminders that he wasn't a typical CEO. Not a polite figurehead. Not a boy in a suit. He was the man people feared silently and respected loudly. The man the tabloids whispered about. The man whose name, Baekjin Group, hovered between legal empire and shadow kingdom. And right now, Kang Ryu was looking for one person. When he found her, when he saw Amara laughing at something Ju-won said, the storm inside him cracked. He didn't blink, didn't breathe, didn't even pretend to hide the jealousy tightening his jaw. Amara felt the air behind her shift. It was like heat rolling across her spine, an invisible spotlight, a presence she could sense before she dared turn around. Her breath caught without permission. When she finally looked over her shoulder, Ryu was already walking toward her. Slow, dangerous, impossible to ignore. Her heart stuttered. He stopped inches away from her, close enough that she could smell the subtle cedar of his cologne, close enough that Ju-won instinctively stepped back, not because Ryu asked him to, but because instinct warned him to. Ryu's voice was low, controlled, but the control was thin as glass. "Amara," he said, without greeting, without smile, without pretending this was a calm moment. "We're leaving. Now." Ju-won froze. Amara blinked hard. She put on her professional smile. "Forgive me. Did we schedule an evening meeting I forgot about?" Ryu ignored the question. His gaze never left her face, as if Ju-won didn't exist, as if the entire gala was nothing but noise surrounding the one woman he couldn't seem to stop wanting. "Step outside with me." His voice didn't rise, but people nearby drifted away all the same. "Ryu," she whispered, "I'm in the middle of a conversation." "With him?" His eyes flicked once toward Ju-won, slow and razor-sharp. "I can see that." Ju-won swallowed hard. I should give you two some privacy." "You should," Ryu agreed quietly. Too quietly. Ju-won retreated so fast he nearly tripped on marble. Amara exhaled sharply, annoyance and something far more dangerous stirring inside her chest. She faced Ryu fully now, brows lifted, eyes sharp as polished obsidian. "You can't just walk up to me in public and— Amara!" His voice softened, but it didn't make anything easier. Outside. People were staring now, whispering. Cameras subtly lifted behind champagne flutes. She clenched her jaw. "You're my client, not my shadow." A muscle in his jaw jumped. "Then stop letting boys treat you like they can touch what's mine." The words hit her like heat, like gravity, like a warning she wasn't prepared to hear out loud. She inhaled slowly, fighting the stir of warmth low in her stomach. "And stop assuming I belong to you." He leaned in, not touching, just close enough for the world to disappear behind him. "Walk with me," he murmured, "or I'll make this scene louder." Her pulse betrayed her. Her feet followed him. And as soon as they stepped outside onto the terrace, the cold winter air slapped the heat between them into something sharper, clearer, more dangerous. If you're hooked already, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and buckle in. This story is just getting started. The terrace overlooked the Han River, its waves catching the city lights like broken glass drifting downstream. The wind curled around them, carrying winter and silence, and a tension that felt older than their 6 months of working together. He stood close enough that his breath warmed her cheek. "You shouldn't have walked away from me tonight," he said quietly. Amara crossed her arms over her chest, not for warmth but for restraint. You shouldn't have barged in like you own me. I don't own you. His voice dropped. But don't ask me to pretend I don't care. She looked away. The city blurred. Her throat tightened. You are my client, Ryu. You think I don't know that? He moved closer, his shadow swallowing hers. You think I haven't tried to keep things clean, professional, distant? His smile was bitter. I failed. I failed the first night I met you. She remained still, listening, breathing, breaking. He continued, voice rougher now. You walk into rooms like you don't have any idea what you do to people, what you do to me. His hand hovered near her waist, not touching, just there. A month ago, you laughed at something Juwon said during a meeting. You didn't even notice. But I did. I noticed everything. She turned toward him, chest tight. You're being dramatic. I'm being honest. Wind curled around them. I know when you're tired, when you skip lunch because you're in back-to-back meetings. I know you hum when you're concentrating. I know you keep your guard high because you don't trust easily. He swallowed. I know you feel alone here, even when you pretend you don't. Her breath trembled. I see you, Amara, all of you, even the parts you hide. Her voice came out softer than she intended. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm done pretending. He took her hand, not forcefully, but with a reverence that didn't match the darkness in his reputation. Because I want you, not professionally, not politely, not from across a conference table. His thumb brushed her knuckles, slow and deliberate. I want you close to me. Only me. The world seemed to tilt. Ryu, she whispered. But the space between them collapsed before she finished the thought. His mouth met hers in a kiss that felt too slow to be accidental, too hungry to be innocent. His hand slid to the base of her spine, pulling her against the heat of his body, and she responded, despite every logical protest her mind tried to raise. It was inevitable, and dangerous, and perfect, until a woman's voice sliced through the air like a cold blade. Well, the voice said, smooth and venomous, isn't this inconvenient? Amara froze. Ryu's body went rigid. They turned together to see her, Han Mira, hair sleek, gown flawless, expression sharper than diamonds. And in the 3 seconds Amara took to study her, everything in her life shifted. Because Mira wasn't just another woman. She wasn't a socialite. She wasn't harmless. She was the woman Ryu was once, maybe still, arranged to marry. And she was looking at Amara the way a hunter looks at something that accidentally wandered into its territory. For a moment, Amara couldn't breathe. Maybe it was the cold. Maybe it was the kiss still burning on her lips. Maybe it was the woman standing in front of them with the elegance of a queen and the smile of someone who enjoyed watching things fall apart. Hanmira stepped forward, her heels sharp against the stone floor. She didn't look at Ryu first, not even for a second. Her eyes locked onto Amara's, unblinking, calculating, dissecting. So this is her, she said softly. Ryu moved in front of Amara, a subtle shift of his body that told Amara everything she needed to know. Protection, possessiveness, guilt. Mira's gaze flicked to him, finally acknowledging his presence. You didn't answer your phone tonight, Ryu. Now I understand why. Amara pulled her hand from his grasp, slowly, but with purpose. She lifted her chin, refusing to shrink under the icy scrutiny. Ryu's jaw tightened. Mira, go inside. Inside? She laughed, and it was a beautiful, devastating sound. While you're out, here kissing the woman who cost our families 5 years of negotiations. I'm afraid not. Amara's pulse thumped in her ears. She turned to Ryu slowly. "Kissing?" she said, voice steady. She said kissing. He broke eye contact first. Mira's lips curved. "Oh, he didn't tell you?" Ryu shot her a warning glare, but she ignored it with the skill of someone who'd been stepping around him her entire life. "Tell her, Ryu," Mira whispered. "Tell her who I am." He inhaled sharply. "We're done, Mira. We ended things." "You believe that?" she murmured. "Your family does not." The wind whipped against Amara's gown, colder now, sharper, as if the city itself wanted her to hear every word. Mira took another graceful step forward. "My father and his father agreed to combine Baekjin's influence with my family's political dynasty. A partnership built on power, security, stability." She paused, her eyes softened in mock sympathy. "But then you arrived, and suddenly, stability wasn't enough for him." Amara felt heat rise in her cheeks, not embarrassment, anger. "Mira," Ryu snapped, "stop talking." She folded her arms. "You should have told her months ago. Instead, you let her walk into your life blind." Amara's chest tightened. Her voice came out low. "Is it true?" Ryu turned to her immediately. "The arrangement ended. I ended it." "That wasn't my question," she said. He hesitated, and that hesitation cracked something inside her. Mira stepped forward, heels clicking like a countdown. "He ended it 3 months ago, but the families have not accepted it. They still expect a reconciliation. They still expect us." Amara stared at Ryu. "Is that true?" Ryu looked into her eyes, and for the first time she saw something she hadn't expected. Fear. Not of Mira, not of his family, of losing her. "Yes," he finally said. "It's true." Mira smiled like she'd won a silent battle. "There it is." Amara exhaled, slow and steady, but inside her, something was unraveling. "So when we started working together," she whispered, "you were still engaged." "It wasn't real," he said urgently. "It was a political deal, a family tradition, and it was already falling apart, long before you arrived." "But it still existed," she said. "You never said a word." "Because I knew you'd walk away." Mira tilted her head. He was right. A woman with your resume and your reputation doesn't get involved with a man like him. Her eyes swept Amara's gown, her natural curls, her skin. "Especially not here, in this city, in this culture." Something cold and ugly twisted in Amara's stomach. Ryu stepped closer to her, ignoring Mira entirely. "Amara, look at me. I ended it because of you. I chose you the moment I realized." Mira cut him off with a scoff. "You didn't choose her. You're infatuated. There's a difference. Ryu chases fire when he's bored. And you," she gestured at Amara, "you are something he has never tasted before." The insult didn't need to be said outright. Amara heard it anyway. Exotic, foreign, temporary. She lifted her chin, eyes burning, not with tears but clarity. "You don't know me." "I know how this ends," Mira replied calmly. "You'll leave. Women like you always do." Ryu stepped forward, voice like ice. "Say one more word." "Or what?" Mira's smile sharpened. "You'll hit me? Threaten me? Destroy your family's alliances because of a woman who won't survive a week in this circle?" Amara's heartbeat thundered. She'd been underestimated before, doubted before, talked over before, but she'd never felt so dissected. She forced her voice steady. "I don't need either of you deciding who I am." Ryu turned to her, eyes desperate. "Amara." "No," she said firmly. "I need a minute." She stepped back, away from his warmth, away from Mira's poison, and maybe away from the future she didn't realize she'd been building with him. Ryu reached for her hand. She stepped out of reach. His face fell, just slightly, but enough to fracture something in both of them. Mira watched with a quiet, satisfied sort of cruelty. You see, she won't last. Ryu rounded on her. If you speak to her again, Mira, I swear I will. Do nothing, Mira said simply, because she won't be here long enough to matter. Amara's eyes narrowed. You don't get to decide that. Mira's expression flickered, surprised that the woman in front of her wasn't shrinking, wasn't quietly backing away, wasn't apologizing for existing. But before Mira could respond, someone else appeared in the doorway. A man in a black suit, sharp jawline, colder eyes, Ryu's right-hand man, Choi Daejin. Boss, Daejin said quietly. We have a problem. Ryu didn't turn fully toward him, keeping Amara in his line of sight. What problem? Daejin glanced at Mira, then at Amara, then spoke in a low, urgent tone. Baekjin elders know about her. The statement dropped like a stone. Ryu's entire expression changed, shadowed, hard, calculating. How? He asked. Daejin didn't answer immediately. Instead, he handed Ryu a sleek black phone. A text message glowed on the screen. Handle the foreign woman. Tonight. Amara felt her stomach twist. What does that mean? She asked. Ryu closed the distance between them in 2 steps. It means they know I care about you, and they see you as a threat. To what? She whispered. Everything, Mira answered. His reputation, his alliances, his influence, his safety. They will not allow you to ruin the structure they built. Ryu glared at Mira. Shut up. But Mira only smiled. Daejin pulled Ryu aside for a second, whispering something Amara couldn't hear. Ryu's eyes darkened even further. He turned back to Amara. We need to leave, he said. Now. No. She stepped back again. We need to talk. This isn't the place. It's perfect, Mira said sweetly. Everyone is already watching. And indeed, when Amara glanced over Ryu's shoulder, she saw faces in the windows. Phones, whispering, cameras, a scandal waiting to explode. Ryu grabbed Amara's hand, not rough, but with urgency. Amara, please, I need you to trust me. She held his gaze, chest rising and falling in sharp breaths. Did you ever plan to tell me about her? She asked softly. About them? About the arrangement? About the consequences? He swallowed. I was going to. When I knew you wouldn't run. Her voice cracked. You should have trusted me to decide for myself. He closed his eyes, pained. I was afraid you'd walk away. And now, she whispered. His eyes opened. Dark, terrified, determined. Now I'm afraid it's already happening. Her chest tightened. The elevator icon blinked at the far end of the hall. The only metal box that could take her further into this world he clearly didn't want her touching. Amar, he began. No, she whispered, stepping back. You don't get to protect me from information that concerns me. If you didn't want me tangled in this, you shouldn't have brought me to that gala in the first place. His jaw flexed. A muscle twitched near his temple. That gala had nothing to do with this, he said quietly, voice low like he was trying not to explode. You were never meant to be near danger. Well, guess what? She shot back. I am. Because of you. The words landed between them like broken glass. Rayon exhaled once through his nose, a sign he was losing the last of his patience. He stepped forward again, slower this time, like approaching a wounded animal. Amar, listen to me. Are you going to tell me the truth? He hesitated. The hesitation was enough. She turned away. Amar. His voice cracked slightly, barely, but enough for her to hear the panic underneath. She didn't stop. She reached the elevator, jabbed the button, and stared straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge the heat of his presence just steps behind her. The doors slid open with a soft chime. Don't do this, he murmured. She stepped inside. Ryan grabbed the door just before it could close, his palm flat against the metal, his eyes a wildfire of frustration and fear. "I'm coming with you," he said. "No," she replied. "If you come, I won't get the truth. You'll control everything, same way you're doing right now." He clenched his jaw but didn't move. "Move your hand, Ryan." He didn't. "Move," she said again, softer. Still nothing. Finally, she whispered, "If you respect me at all, let me go." That broke him. His hand slid back. The elevator doors closed between them, and for the first time since they met, Ryan Cho let her walk away. The elevator hummed as it descended. Amma's spine pressed against the cold metal wall, her breath shallow, palms trembling against her thighs. What am I even doing? She didn't know. She didn't have a plan. All she had was the fragment of information she'd overheard. Someone had mentioned a name she knew intimately. A name Ryan had no reason to connect to his world, or so she thought. The elevator opened to a deeper, colder floor, an underground space she had no clearance for. Alarms didn't go off. No one stopped her, which meant Ryan had probably authorized her access long ago without her knowing. The thought frustrated her even more. She stepped into a dim hallway lit by soft yellow floor lights. Ahead, she saw the frosted glass door labeled in sharp Korean letters she couldn't read. But the English below it was unmistakable: security operations, surveillance archives, restricted. Her heart hammered. She reached for the handle. It clicked open. She froze. Someone was already inside. A tall man wearing a black turtleneck and gloves stood in the center of the room, rifling through files pulled from a steel cabinet. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't moving like staff. He was moving like a thief, a professional. Amma swallowed, forcing her voice out. "Hey!" The man whirled around. His eyes widened when he saw her, then narrowed quickly into something lethal. Amma's stomach dropped. He didn't say a word. He lunged. Amma stumbled back. The metal stool cracked against the floor as she reached for anything to defend herself. Her fingers found a binder, useless but heavy. She swung it wildly. He caught her wrist mid-air. She gasped as pain shot up her arm. "You shouldn't be here," he hissed, voice accented, but unmistakably East Asian. The pressure around her wrist tightened. Amma winced. "What do you want?" she breathed. "Information," he replied, "and you're in my way." Her heart thundered against her ribs. He shoved her toward the wall. Amma collided with it, a sharp pain ripping across her shoulder. The man reached for a drawer again, flipping through papers like he was searching for something critical. Amma's pulse raced. She had seconds, maybe less, before he decided what to do with her. Her eyes darted across the room, then landed on a red button beneath a desk, a silent alarm. If she could reach it. The man noticed her gaze and followed it. His expression hardened. Amma's breath caught. Oh God. He charged. Suddenly the door slammed open so hard it rattled the glass. The intruder spun around, and Ryan was there. Not the polished man from the gala. Not the controlled, calculating leader who always hid emotion behind cool restraint. No, this Ryan was fury incarnate. His fist connected with the man's, jaw before he could even speak. The impact shook the room. Papers flew. The man crashed into a filing cabinet, metal denting from the force. Ryan didn't pause. He was on him in the next heartbeat. "Amma!" Ryan said without looking at her, his voice harsh and breathless. "Stay back." She obeyed instinctively. The intruder grabbed for something on his belt. Ryan intercepted his arm, twisted it behind his back, and slammed him to the ground. The man struggled only briefly before Ryan's knee pressed into his spine. "Who sent you?" Ryan growled. The man spat blood onto the floor. Ryan tightened his grip. The sounds, bones grinding, low-pained gasps, made Amma's stomach twist. "Who sent you?" Ryan repeated, colder. The intruder looked up, eyes burning with hatred. "To Safara," he sneered in Yoruba. Amma's eyes widened. He spoke Yoruba. Ryan noticed her reaction immediately, but didn't take his eyes off the man. "What does it mean?" Ryan asked her. Amma swallowed. "It means you're suffering." Ryan's expression darkened. The man smirked at Amma, something grotesque and smug in his eyes, as if he knew something she didn't. Ryan slammed him unconscious with one blow. Silence fell. A deep, suffocating silence. Amma pressed her back against the wall, heart slamming into her ribs. She felt nauseous, shaken, almost dizzy. Ryan stood slowly, chest rising and falling with violent breaths. He wiped blood from his knuckles, then turned toward her. "Amma." She shook her head. Even the sound of his voice almost made her crumble. "Amma. Look at me." She lifted her gaze just enough to meet his, and the sight terrified her more than the intruder. Ryan looked broken, like finding her here had shattered something inside him. He stepped closer. She stepped back. That hurt him. She saw it instantly. His face tightened, eyes hollowing with something like pain. "I told you not to come down here," he whispered. "You told me nothing," she whispered back. "That's why I came." He closed his eyes briefly, exhaling shakily. When he reopened them, the cold fury was gone, replaced by raw fear. "I could have lost you. I'm still here. Not because of you," he snapped, voice cracking. "If I had been 30 seconds later, but you weren't. That's not the point." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once before facing her again. "You don't understand," he said softly. "Someone wants you involved in this. Someone knows you matter to me. And now they're using you." Her breath caught. "Why? Why would anyone use me? I don't—" Ryan hesitated again. Amma's heartbeat accelerated. That hesitation. It was the same one from before. The same one that meant he was hiding something enormous. She stepped closer, voice unsteady. "Ryan, is this connected to my sister?" His pupils contracted. Just for a second, but enough. Amma's blood ran cold. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It is." Ryan swallowed hard. "Amma, you knew," she breathed, stepping back. "You knew something about Noni. That's why you didn't want me down here." "Amma, please." "No," she whispered, shaking her head as tears burned behind her eyes. "Tell me the truth, all of it. Right now." Ryan stared at her. She stared back. The truth hovered between them. Sharp, heavy, shattering. Finally, Ryan exhaled and opened his mouth. Ryan didn't speak at first. His lips parted, then closed again. His eyes, usually so unreadable, shifted with something Amma had never seen in him before. Dread. Not anger, not frustration. Dread. "Amma," he said finally, voice so low it nearly broke. "You need to breathe." She didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until her knees weakened. She leaned on the nearest desk, fingers trembling against the metal. "Tell me," she whispered. "Please." Ryan took a slow, painful breath, his shoulders rising and falling, as if the truth weighed more than he could handle. "Your sister's disappearance," he swallowed. "It wasn't random." Amma's pulse stopped. "It was connected to someone who once worked for my organization," Ryan continued. "Someone who betrayed us and dragged innocent people into his retaliation." Amma shook her head aggressively. "No, my sister was taken because she was walking home from work. That was it. There was no mafia, no criminal network, No connection to you. That doesn't make sense." "It wasn't about her," Ryan whispered. "It was about who she was mistaken for." Her vision blurred at the edges. "What?" Ryan looked away, jaw tightening, as though the memory itself burned. "The man who took her. His name was Bayo Lukun, Nigerian-born. Operated in Seoul for 6 years. Highly intelligent, highly unstable. He believed a woman was informing against him. A woman who resembled your sister in complexion, height, build, enough to confuse him in low light." Ama's stomach twisted. No, this could not be real," Ryan continued, voice soft with guilt. "We were tracking him that night. My team was close, but not close enough." She sank onto the edge of a metal stool, her breath catching in her throat. "So she was taken by mistake," she whispered, "because someone thought she was someone else." Ryan nodded once. Ama covered her mouth with both hands. Tears blurred her vision as her chest tightened painfully. "You knew," she breathed. "All this time, you knew what happened to her." Ryan's eyes filled with regret, so deep it carved into his features. "I didn't know she was your sister," he said. "Not until 2 days ago." The room spun. "When you told me her name," he said softly, and described the case, "I recognized the pattern. I checked the archives. I confirmed it today. And I was coming upstairs to talk to you when I overheard someone talking about my sister," Ama whispered, her voice breaking. "That's what pushed me down here." Ryan nodded. Silence pulsed between them, thick with grief, with anger, with the kind of sorrow that hollowed a person from the inside. "And you didn't think I deserved to know?" she asked, her voice faint but sharp. Ryan stepped toward her, stopping only when he saw the pain on her face. "Ama," he said, his voice unsteady. "I wasn't ready. I wanted more information first. I wanted to be absolutely certain before telling you anything, because I knew it would destroy you. I wanted to find him before." "Before what?" she demanded, lifting her gaze. "Before I asked questions, before I held you accountable, before I saw what your world actually looks like. Before I realized my sister's blood is partly on the hands of your organization." Ryan froze. The accusation tore through him. His expression collapsed into something raw and pleading. "Ama, I swear to you, if I had known she was connected to you, I would have torn this city apart looking for her myself." "Why would that matter?" she whispered. "She was a person. She didn't need to be connected to me to deserve saving." He flinched, a small, painful flinch. She stood, wiping her face aggressively, even as fresh tears rolled down. "So where is he?" she demanded. "This Bayo, where is he now?" Ryan looked away. Ama's heart plummeted. "Tell me," she ordered. "Ama," his voice cracked. "He's been off-grid for almost a year." Her legs weakened. She steadied herself on the desk. "You mean he got away?" she whispered. "And no one is looking for him anymore." "That's not true," Ryan said quickly. "I've had a watch on his former networks for months, but he's unpredictable. He moves erratically. He burns every trail behind him. Finding him is like chasing smoke." Ama stared at him, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely a breath. "Is she alive?" A silence so heavy it suffocated the air settled over them. Ryan closed his eyes, then opened them, and shook his head once, slow, devastated. Ama's knees buckled. Ryan caught her before she hit the floor, his arms wrapping around her instinctively, protectively. But she pushed him away, sobbing. "Don't touch me!" He stepped back instantly. Ama collapsed onto the stool, her body trembling as sharp, broken sobs tore from her chest. Her hands covered her face, her shoulders shaking uncontrollably. The room blurred into streaks of light and shadow. Ryan stood there, helpless, silent, destroyed by her pain. He moved closer slowly, but not touching her, like a man approaching a wounded lioness. "Amma," he whispered. "I know you won't believe this right now, but I'm going to find him. I'm going to end this. For you, for her, for everything he took." She didn't respond. Her sobs echoed through the archive room like open wounds. "And when I find him," Ryan continued, his voice steadying into something dark and dangerous, "he will answer for what he did." The words vibrated with lethal promise, but Amma was too shattered to hear it fully. Her breathing hitched, sharp and painful, as she wiped her face with shaking hands. "What else?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. "There's more, I can feel it." Ryan hesitated. "No more lies," she warned. "No more protecting me. Tell me all of it." He inhaled slowly. "There were 2 women mistaken that week," Ryan said quietly. "Your sister and another." Amma lifted her head, eyes swollen and red. "What do you mean, another?" "Bio thought he was being hunted by 2 women," Ryan said. "One was his real target. The second was a misidentified witness, someone who shared similar features." Amma blinked. "I don't understand." Ryan's voice dropped even lower. "Amma, the second woman, was you." She froze. Everything inside her turned to ice. "No," she whispered. Ryan stepped forward, his voice hollow. "You were on one of his surveillance lists." Her pulse stopped. "He mistook you for someone following him. Someone working with us. Someone he wanted to eliminate." A cold tremor swept down her spine. "You told me someone wants to use me," she whispered. "Someone knows I matter to you." "Yes," Ryan said, "because this isn't just about your sister anymore." Bio realized he grabbed the wrong girl, and when he ran, he switched targets. Amma's lungs tightened. "He's after you now." Her breath escaped in a sharp gasp. "And the man I fought today," Ryan added, "was one of Bao's proxies." Amma stared at him in terror, her heart pounding violently against her ribs. "You should have told me," she whispered. "I know. You should have told me everything." "I know. Now he's coming for me." Ryan looked at her with an expression so fierce, so protective, it shook her. "He'll have to get through me first." Amma swallowed, trembling from head to toe. "And what if he does?" Ryan's eyes darkened. "He won't." "You can't promise that," she whispered. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, until he was close enough for her to hear the faint tremor in his breathing. "No," he said softly. "But I can promise this." Her heart pounded. "I will not lose you," Ryan whispered. "Not the way you lost her." Amma stared at him, torn between fury and fear, and a devastating pull toward the man who had just cracked her world open. "You don't get to make promises," she whispered. "I'm making one anyway." Silence settled. Thick, dangerous, electric. Amma exhaled shakily. "Ryan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What happens now?" Ryan looked at her with a calmness that chilled her to the bone. "Now," he said, "we prepare for war." Amma stared at him, the word war echoing in her mind like a distant explosion. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, breath shaky, body cold, soul even colder. The archive room suddenly felt too small, the shadows too deep, the silence too loud. Ryan's words played over and over. "You were on one of his lists. He switched targets. He's after you now." She forced herself to stand, legs trembling. Ryan stepped toward her, as if ready to catch her again, but she lifted a hand sharply, stopping him. "Don't," she whispered. He froze mid-step, Not in anger this time, but in respect, in understanding. Amar had never felt so vulnerable, so raw, so exposed in her entire life, and yet she had never felt so awake either. The truth had torn something open inside her, but beneath all the pain was a flame, small, trembling, but alive. "What does he want?" she asked finally. Ryan exhaled a breath that came from deep in his chest. "Revenge. And leverage. He knows you're connected to me now. He'll use that." Amar swallowed hard. "Because I matter to you?" Ryan didn't hesitate. "Yes." She closed her eyes for a moment, absorbing that, letting it cut and soothe at the same time. "And how long?" she whispered. "Have I mattered to you?" Rayon's jaw flexed. "Since the day you stormed into my office and corrected my entire launch strategy in front of a room full of men too afraid to speak to me." A breath escaped her, half laugh, half sob. "You were the only one not scared of me," he added softly, "and the first person in years who ever saw me without trying to use me." Amar opened her eyes. "And still," she said, "you didn't trust me with the truth." He didn't flinch away from that. "I was wrong," Ryan admitted, "and I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it if you let me." Amar looked away. His words warmed her and wounded her at the same time. "You can't make promises like that," she whispered. "I can," Ryan said, "and I am." The air between them tightened. Amar stepped away from him, moving toward the stairs, but her legs still trembled, and she grabbed the railing to steady herself. Ryan moved a little closer, not touching her, not crowding her, just close enough that she could feel his presence, steady and warm behind her. "Amar," he said quietly, "you shouldn't go home tonight." She turned her head slightly. "And where should I go?" Ryan hesitated. "Somewhere secure." "Your place?" she asked bitterly. "No," Ryan said, surprising her. "Not unless you ask. You don't owe me that trust. Not after tonight." Amar blinked. "So where?" she whispered. "There's a safe residence 2 blocks from here. Monitored. Unmarked. Only my closest team knows about it. You'll be protected until we assess the situation." She let out a shaky breath. "And if I say no?" "I'll guard your door myself," Ryan said simply. She stared at him, expecting arrogance, but all she found was sincerity, a sincerity so heavy it made her chest ache. "Why?" she whispered. He met her eyes. "Because losing you is not an option." Something in her cracked open again. Not pain this time. Something warmer, something terrifying in a different way. Amar turned fully toward the stairs, ascending slowly. Ryan followed at a respectful distance, never touching her, never rushing her. When they reached the hallway, she stopped suddenly, leaning against the wall as another wave of emotion shook her. "Amar!" Ryan stepped forward instinctively. She lifted a hand again. "I'm fine." "You're not," he said gently. "Don't tell me how I feel," she snapped. Ryan lowered his gaze slightly. "You're right. I'm sorry." His humility disarmed her in a way nothing else ever had. "You don't have to go with me," she whispered. "I do," Ryan said softly. "I'm the reason he's coming." Amar swallowed. The truth of that hit her hard. They continued walking until they reached the elevator. Ryan pressed the button, but neither stepped inside yet. The polished doors reflected the two of them, Amar trembling and drained, Ryan tense and shadowed. As they waited, Amar finally spoke. "So now what? I hide while you... What, hunt him?" Ryan's voice lowered. "I'm handling this, and not just because of guilt." Amar scoffed quietly. "Then what? Because you're trying to be my savior now?" Ryan shook his head slowly. "Because I care for you, Amar. More than I should. More than I planned." and more than is safe for either of us. Her heart tightened painfully. You don't even know me, she whispered. I know enough, he said. I know you're strong enough to walk into every room like you belong there, but gentle enough to still call your mother 3 times a day. I know you hold your breath when you're nervous. I know you trace your thumb against your palm when you're thinking. I know you look people in the eye when you tell the truth. But look at the floor when you lie. His voice softened. And right now, you're trying not to look at me because you don't want me to see you're scared. Amma's throat constricted. Her eyes burned again. Don't do that, she whispered. Don't study me like that. I can't help it, Ryan said. I've been studying you since the moment I met you. A tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it quickly, but Ryan saw. The elevator opened with a soft chime. Amara stepped inside. Ryan followed. The doors closed, sealing them into a small, quiet space where the hum of machinery drowned everything else out. Amara leaned against the wall, breathing slowly, trying to gather the pieces of herself. Ryan, she said after a long moment. If he's coming after me, how long do we have? Ryan's expression turned sharp. Not long, he said. But that's why we move now. She studied him, his face, his posture, the controlled intensity radiating from him like heat. You're not afraid, she whispered. Of him? Ryan asked. No. What are you afraid of, then? Ryan's gaze lowered, then rose again, slowly, deliberately. Of losing you, he whispered. Her breath caught. The elevator doors slid open. Ryan didn't move until she did, and Amma, shaking but determined, stepped forward. Outside, the night air was cool, brushing her face and clearing some of the fog in her mind. Ryan walked beside her without touching her, keeping pace with her heartbeat, as if he could hear it from where he stood. The city was quiet, the street almost empty, neon reflections shimmering across wet pavement. Everything felt sharper, louder, more dangerous. Ryan glanced around, scanning every shadow, every passing car, every rooftop. His posture had shifted, no longer the cool, controlled CEO, but something darker, sharper, lethal, a protector, a wolf, a storm waiting for a target. Amma glanced at him, uneasy. Are you expecting someone to ambush us? Not tonight, Ryan said, but I'm not taking chances. They reached the end of the block where a sleek black car waited. Ryan opened the door for her. Amma, he said quietly. Once you get in this car, everything changes. She hesitated. How? Ryan met her eyes, and his voice lowered into something that vibrated through her chest. You and I stop pretending. Amma's breath hitched. Pretending what? She whispered. That you don't mean something to me, Ryan said, and that I don't mean something to you. She froze, heart thundering. But this is war, he added softly. And in war, you protect what you love. Her pulse stuttered. Love. The word hung between them, fragile and explosive. Amma swallowed, breath unsteady. Are you saying you love me? She whispered. Ryan didn't blink. I'm saying, he murmured, that losing you terrifies me more than any enemy I've ever faced. Her chest tightened painfully. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Not when the world was breaking and shifting under her feet. Ryan stepped back slightly, giving her space. Amma, he whispered. Get in the car. She looked at him, long, searching, trembling. Then she finally moved. As she slid into the seat, her heart pounding like war drums, one truth settled into her bones. Nothing in her life would ever be the same again. Ryan closed the door gently, walked around, got in beside her. and as the car pulled away from the curb and disappeared into the Seoul night. The hunt began.